que salta del cómic.
He thought he was in control. How wrong he was.
Hey, what's up? I'm Shane with Dynamis Media, and I'm joined here with Stefan.
Hello.
And you are tuning into the Darkside Drive-In, which is our horror-themed drive-in movie review podcast. Honestly, I have to say thank you to everyone that's been listening. We've had an overwhelming amount of support, and it's been fantastic. I didn't expect this. Stefan did expect it, weirdly, but I was
not accurate.
So thank you to everyone that's been listening, reviewing everything. So do us a huge favor. If you like the show and you think you know someone that would like the show, go ahead and just, let them know, hey, these are some pretty cool dudes and they're talking about some pretty cool movies, and, share the show. I don't think we plan on doing any kind of advertisement. So we're having fun and hoping that you have fun along the way with us too. So a little bit of housekeeping. So
actually, I'm going to have to interrupt you real fast before you get to the regular housekeeping. I hate to have to do this, only on our third episode in, but unfortunately I did make a grievous error in the last episode, and I have to apologize for it. The people of America deserve better, but basically, everyone, I mistook the film American Beauty for American Pie last time. I said it was American Pie. Everyone knows that the creepy kid with the camera was from American Beauty. Different movie, different tones, I'd like to say that it was just because of the existence of Not Another Teen Movie, which was riffing on all of these things. That's why it happened, but there's no excuse for making those kinds of errors, and I'll do better in the future. I'll have my phone queued up to IMDb so that I know every movie that has ever existed for all time at once. But I thought it was important that we get ahead of this before we're rocked with scandal, only a couple episodes into our show.
Yeah, we lost two major sponsors, so which is my mom and your mom. So no,
That's not the reason we might lose my mom.
Oh yeah, right. Really,
my mom doesn't like that I swear on the show.
So neither does my mom. Not to be weird, Norman Bates. Anyways, so yeah, I think that's a pretty cool thing that you caught that before Twitter did. So we didn't get any mean tweets or I don't know. You know how people can get sometimes where they just lose their mind and have to tweet at you that you're wrong. So yeah, thanks for the correction, and don't do it again or you're fired, right? So
understandable. You'll replace me with what, like Chris Hardwick?
Oh, is he available?
Oh, has he been canceled? I think he
was. He really canceled?
Well, yeah, like a number of years ago though. But I think that AMC just had a contract with him, so they just keep bringing him back for stuff. So wait, he's canceled but not canceled at the same time.
Why was he canceled? I have no idea what you're talking about.
You really want to get into it here? It's not chill. He was allegations of abuse of a partner.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, and everyone at home now rolling on their sides of the hilarity of partner abuse.
Yeah, well, my bad. I guess
people aren't usually canceled for good things, my man. It's not like,
well, I didn't know.
He was canceled for rescuing capuchin monkeys from a burning building.
Invasive species.
Are they?
No, they're not. They're actually a vital part of that ecosystem.
Don't just make crazy claims, or I'm gonna have to we're gonna have to do corrections every episode.
I'm trying to deflect from your correction. Is the whole plan. So
good work, real tight, planning here.
I can't wait to add effects to your apology now. Just I'm gonna really ham it up.
But anyways, are you actually gonna do that?
Oh, totally. Man. You have no idea. Yeah. Anyways, so we took a couple breaks from our other shows. One of our hosts went on a honeymoon. Congrats to him. It's awesome. And we decided to rework a couple things. So if you listen to our other shows, you should hear a little bit of a gap, but we should pick that back up here in a couple of weeks. The website's been going really well. our main man Stefan here has a great review up. You should go check it out at dynamismedia.com, where Stefan is taking up the torch of reviewing movies. And I feel like there isn't enough of like celebration of theater goers anymore. So I think it's important to keep that going. So appreciate the work, Stefan. You're killing it.
I was going to go to the theater anyway, but yeah, might as well get some content out of it,
Such a crazy, and I know we're getting a little off topic, but such a crazy thing to think about. Like, 10 years ago, if you would have said no one's going to go to movies anymore, I wouldn't have believed it. That was such a huge part of my childhood, and even like through high school and college, going to movies, like getting everyone together, go to premiere night. I thought was like such a huge event for all of us. And to think now that that's just kind of gone. I know it's coming back, but we all know COVID kind of took a toll on that, but it's just crazy that how fast that kind of went away. So pretty weird. But hey, we have a really, really good movie lined up that has a lot to do with chopping, dismemberment, giant humanoid robots. Let me think of all the other things the poster lied about. Body parts. Where else am I at here? Why don't you just do a quick intro on the movie?
Yeah. So apparently one of the things that I found out during my research ahead of this was that it originally was released under the title Killbots, which kind of makes a lot more sense than Chopping Mall, considering that not a lot of chopping happens in it. I don't know if anything that they do as robots to the people could be considered chopping. But so the original title is Killbots. It was released in, I think it was March of 86, and it did not do well with like the early audience screenings. So they changed the title to Chopping Mall and released it later in the year. And it actually was a pretty modest financial success all around. Granted, part of that is because of the low budget nature of the film and of the, it's basically anyone who knows a lot about, maybe the schlocky horror world, basically from the 50s on, knows the name Roger Corman. This is another Roger Corman and his wife, Julie Corman. This is another production of theirs. So it's really, I wouldn't say cheap, but frugal. Like they aren't going to waste money. I think that part of the origin of this was that someone at like the studio came up with the idea that they might be able to get a mall to shoot a movie in. And Jim Wynorski, the director, said, yeah, I can get you a script for this thing. Like in a couple of days, if you let me direct it. And the Cormans, being ready to just let it happen, said yes. And I think within 24 hours, Jim Wynorski had a story outline ready to go on what this movie would become.
Yeah. So I feel like I really needed to know that. So I didn't know anything before going. So this is the first time I've seen this movie, which is crazy. And I needed to know that. I'm glad you did some research because I'm like looking at the cover. I'm like, all right, when did like the giant robots come? Or like, when are they going to start chopping? I guess would be my first question.
Yeah, there's a lot of checks written by the title and the movie poster / VHS cover that are uncashed. Like you said, the humanoid robots, because there's a hand gripping like a bag of body parts called Chopping Mall. You'd think it's going to be a lot of chopping, but these are actually more like robots on treads with like lasers and
tasers.
Lasers, tasers,
blazers.
What else do they have? I think they have sleep darts, but you never see the darts, but they do say that there are darts and people do act like they're getting hit by darts. And the only hands they have are like these like crab claw hands that like extend from their weird Dalek like torsos. And fun fact about that, those almost everything on those robots was practical. And I think they use like little reacher grabber toys for the hands. So not dangerous robot hands, despite the number of murders they commit with them in the movie.
They were extremely effective at cutting the jugular. So I was like the pinching, like the.
Yeah, that's how you cut throats if you're a deranged robot in a mall.
So when we talked about movies to do, this was a must on your list. I think we were like, hey, we have to hit these. And one of the big things was because it introduced a lot of like, not introduced, but there were some scream queens introduced in this movie, to us at least, or to this show. So why don't you provide a little more background on that?
Well, sure, I can do that exact thing. Kelly Maroney is pretty well known, not just as like a scream queen, but just in 80s film in general. Probably most famous for Fast Times at Ridgemont High. She was in Night of the Comet, which is also an amazing like 80s horror movie, and I would love it if we could do that at some point. She's remained pretty active since then. She's been in more recent films like Scare Package 2, Rad Chad's Revenge, which is a good movie despite how crazy that title sounds. Sorority Babes and Slimeball Bolorama 2, which is not good despite how crazy that title sounds. But the important thing is she's staying, active and she's working. So good for her. She plays our main character, Allison, in this film. The other major scream queen in this would be Barbara Crampton. She plays Susie, who's Allison's, best friend, kind of the person who puts together this entire party. Not that she knew that there was going to be robot murders happening, but she's pretty famous for some loosely defined Lovecraftian adaptations in the 80s. There was Stuart Gordon's Reanimator, From Beyond, Castle Freak was another one, which is probably out of those the loosest adaptation of Lovecraft's work. She was active for a really long time in like soap operas. She was in, I think, Bold and the Beautiful and Young and the Restless. It's kind of hard to tell because those things have been going for decades, and it's hard to tell what she did then and what she's done more recently. But she's kind of had a career resurgence since 2011's You're Next. Very underrated horror movie. It's kind of like it seems like it's going to be like your standard home invasion slasher, but then it turns out to be like a little bit more than meets the eye on that. Since then, she's worked pretty consistently on like horror TV shows like Channel Zero and Creep Show, and a handful of movies, both on the producing side and on the acting side. She was in Jacob's Wife, was a more recent one that I think is a Shudder original and is available there. And that one is a really interesting, like kind of feminist take on like the vampire mythology, which is a fun movie. She was like a side character in Superhost, also on Shudder, which was really solid. And for anyone who's a gamer out there, she voiced Mom in Back for Blood, the former studio that was Turtle Rock game.
Yeah.
So yeah, she went kind of inactive for a while there to focus on family, and then got called back up to the majors and has been pretty active in horror for the last decade or so.
So is Susie Slater a scream queen? Because I know she's in this. She plays a pretty important role.
She is a lesser scream queen, and actually it's kind of interesting that you bring her up because she had a number of titles like on her resume: Savage Streets, Cartel. Her last one was Mind Twister, which is like an erotic thriller, so not really a scream queen kind of movie. But apparently she just like dropped off the face of the earth to the point where when they tried to get like the cast back together for like a reunion thing, they couldn't even find her.
Oh, wow.
So she just like, yeah. So like whenever that like one movie came out, I think it was in I think a couple years after this, she was just gone. So yeah, like I would say that she has the same, chops as the rest of the scream queens, and that there's no shortage of screaming in this movie. I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, so she definitely like, it seemed like she had the makings of, having a long career in this, kind of movie. She was obviously involved with Roger Corman. Roger Corman's like productions often like would reuse the same actors, the same directors and stuff like that. And it's really interesting that she just kind of dropped off the face of the earth and was like kind of never seen again. Like it's really interesting.
Yeah, because she was like a titular character in this movie.
Yeah, she was one of our, what was it, 4 couples, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of our 4 main couples. And I would say, not to get too ahead of where we're at, but probably the best kill in the entire thing.
Yeah, I was saving it. That it was.
Yeah. So, yeah, and everyone else in the cast has worked here and there, mostly in TV show work. It's one of those like things like, how people are always talking about how like, oh, this show like Law and Order was on so long that everyone was in Law and Order at some point. It seems like every of the like, especially the 8 main characters, everyone was in some episode or another of Murder, She Wrote.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Like, man, what's going on in Cabot Cove that all these young people are getting murdered. Well, I guess look, I don't want to get into it. I have a lot of questions about what's going on in the small town of Cabot Cove, Maine, that there's enough murders that they have like 260 episodes of that show. But it is interesting that all of these like actors basically made an appearance in there. I think out of the rest of the cast, the major standout is actually John Turleski, who plays Mike in this. Better known as the guy who's chewing gum in every scene that
Violently
he's in.
chewing gum.
Like he's chewing that gum like it like killed his parents. Like
That gum didn't stand a chance.
no, for real. So like this dude, okay, he had like some other films. He like worked with like Jim Wynorski on Deathstalker 2, but since then he's been like a really prolific TV director. Like if you name pretty much any show over the years, like especially if it's a crime drama, a long-running like serialized crime drama, he's probably directed an episode of it. Like Criminal Minds, Castle, what is it, The Blacklist, more recent shows like The Rookie, SWAT, the new Equalizer show. Like this dude's just directing episodes of everything. And, great that he's still getting work. It's interesting that that's where he went. But it's like crazy to see like his director credits are like probably outnumber anyone else that I've seen other than people like this director, Jim Wynorski, who's his directing credits still refuse to stop and also refuse to make sense. Which I guess I can't just say that and then not talk about Jim Wynorski's work, because this dude, like I had texted you about this ahead of time, that like he's like the master of directing the second entry in a series.
Yeah.
Because he had done Deathstalker 2, like I just mentioned. He did Big Bad Mama 2, Return to the Swamp Thing, Sorority House Massacre 2, 976 Evil 2, Munchie, which I wasn't going to bring it up, but he also directed the third Munchie Strikes Back, which I didn't even know existed. But then like over the years, he's still directing a ton of movies that are like Dino Croc versus Super Gator or Camel Spiders or Piranaconda. This is all him doing these weird things. And he's also been doing like a ton of softcore porn that's like, the less said about those, the better for the most part, except some of them have pretty funny titles like Invasion of the Hottie Snatchers.
Or Sexapede.
Yeah, Sexapede is one of them. I didn't think that was a more clever one. I didn't write that one down. I thought the Da Vinci Co-Ed was kind of funny. Yeah. And then there was one that was called Sharkansas's Women's Prison Massacre, like I play in Arkansas. And I was like, I can't tell if that's a porn movie or if that's a horror movie, and I don't want to look more into it. And he also, he's worked under like a ton of pseudonyms, like Harold Blueberry, Rob Robertson, Salvador Ross, Sam Pepperman, Rip Masters, and Jay Andrews. And it seems like each of those like pseudonyms is coded to a specific kind of movie. Like Jay Andrews is the guy who directs like all those like Sci-Fi Channel original monster movies.
That's awesome.
And then he's just like inexplicably done children's movies. Like there's one called Nessie and Me about kids making friends with the Loch Ness Monster. And then one called A Dog on Christmas, which is like a dog themed Christmas movie.
So I'm just like going through his credits. He has a recent release of a movie called Killbots, originally titled Murderbot.
Yeah, I saw that and I was wondering if like he's finally reclaiming this title that he originally went for this. But the plot is not the same, at least based on the blurb that I saw.
Yeah, definitely not. I just thought it was crazy that he was just like,
it's called Killbots, but it seems like it's about one robot.
So well, it was originally called Murderbot, and they're like, dude, your titles suck. We're going to do Killbots.
Even though there's only the one, right, the one robot.
Like, damn it, not again.
He literally can't, he can't win.
I'm going to stay with Shark Babes or Sexy Wives Sensations.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is the dude must be so old too, and he's just like still churning out all of these movies. Like, retire, dude. You've probably done enough in the world. But like, what was it? One of the movies that he had done that I wanted to make sure that I brought up that has special interest to mostly to you and I, but also to like a bunch of our old fraternity brothers, is The Wasp Woman. He did a remake of The Wasp Woman in like 1995. I have to imagine it isn't as good as the original, was it 60s version of The Wasp Woman, but at least he helped keep that legacy alive so that we could eventually find it on some random collection of like 30 horror movies on DVD at like Walmart.
Yeah, I was gonna say, remember like Walmart had the bins and it was like, I don't know, it was like $1 a movie, and then they were all like old horror movies. You're like, hell yeah, and you just take a handful, just randomly, just don't, whatever you get. It's like kind of like It's like a fun adventure.
I still have a bunch of those.
I
A bunch of
know.
those, like the DVD collections that I used to buy back then. I still have a ton of them.
So cool.
Just in case, there's ever some kind of ecological disaster that destroys like all of the internet, but I still need to watch The Wasp Woman, I will be able to.
Well, hey, speaking of watching The Wasp Woman, why don't we get in the plot of this story?
Park Plaza Mall. You need a deal, we has them all at the Park Plaza Mall. Come on down to the Park Plaza Mall, your hometown shopping destination. We've got so many stores your head will explode. Our Labor Day weekend sales are so shocking, you'll simply pass out and die. Be sure to stop at Furniture King, the tri-state area's #1 destination for illicit teen activities. And don't forget Roger's Little Shop of Pets, now selling exclusively tarantulas and snakes, both real and obviously plastic. At the Park Plaza Mall.
Absolutely seamless transition. So, opening the 80s. You can tell because of the music.
Cut.
Actually, this time it kind of is a smash cut because the guy smashes a window. Yeah, a very 80s style rapscallion breaks open a window at a jewelry store, takes handfuls of jewels that are sure to have shards of glass in them. With his he has like one of those wool knit caps, high jeans. Like he's a very 80s criminal. And then he is on the run when he is ordered to stop by a robot. He doesn't surrender. He attempts to shoot it, and the robot tasers him. And it's like, wow, this is an interesting way to start this movie. But it was actually a movie within a movie because it was like a sizzle reel for the security company that makes the robots that's presenting it to, I'm guessing, like people who own stores in the mall. Definitely not all mall employees. Yeah.
I didn't follow it because there was that cynical couple. I'm like, who are these people?
Yeah, so I think that they are known for being in a bunch of low budget movies and stuff like that, but I don't think I know many of things they've been in. That was Paul Bartel and Mary Woronov as Paul and Mary Bland. I think the Bland is a take on the fact that all they do is like roll their eyes and make not very funny quips about what's going on. Occasionally somewhat racist quips, actually, because didn't he say that the one robot looked vaguely ethnic?
Yeah.
Like, dude, they all look the same. They're robots.
I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm sure this is supposed to be played for laughs, but there were few laughs to be found. It's just kind of your standard, like setting it up like as like a doctor who's explaining like the, these robots are controlled by a central computer on the roof. And at night, starting at midnight, there will be blast doors that close and lock them all off until dawn. And the robots will patrol all around the mall, but they won't go in the stores. And then someone obviously asks, like, won't they kill you? Like, how do you know they won't kill you? And basically, the doctor just says, look, they have only non-lethal capabilities. Not true, first of all. Very lethal because they mentioned that they have lasers that can cut through rubble in case there's like a disaster. It's like, let me tell you something about the human body. It is not stronger than rubble. And then he says the best line in the movie so far, which is absolutely nothing can go wrong. And then opening credits, 80s music, jamming out, shopping mall credits, random rude people who push a kid to mess up his ice cream in an elevator.
Yeah, chocolate all over him. What an awesome 80s intro, though.
It's a very much a series of montages of what malls are. And that was why I was like, man, we knew what malls are, right? Because it seems to me like it's almost introducing the concept of malls and like the chaos that ensues at them. But anyways, the end of this montage, we cut to our first two main characters.
Man, you missed the best part of the montage.
Which part is
the lady in the food court? How many times did she almost drop that tray of food?
Oh, yeah. No, I felt so bad about that. I didn't even want to think more about it. Because, yeah, she's carrying like a tray full of like open top soda containers and like hot dogs and stuff.
It's like they load it up. Like, what would you not want to get spilled on you? And they're like, all right, put it on this lady's tray and have her walk around the food court. And then we'll just
she's running through a nightmarish food court. Yeah. And that's not how food courts work. They don't bring you your tray of like chili dogs and sodas. Like, they just set that scene up to give you anxiety. And you knew she was going to spill it. And of course she spilled it all over the people that it was intended for. That was devastating.
I know, but like, so you're like, okay, you knew it was going to happen, but they did a good job of like keep delaying it. Like, and then finally she just topples all the pop all over everyone. It was awesome. I loved it.
I would say, without any hyperbole, that was the most stressful scene in the entire film for me.
I agree.
And that is a film full of like people getting murdered by robots. I was like, she's going to spill all of this stuff.
Robots voiced by Jim Wynorski.
Yeah, Jim Wynorski, in an effort to make sure that the budget is maintained, voiced all the robots. So yeah, we can go back to this. Yeah. So our first two main characters, Kelly Maroney is Allison, and then Barbara Crampton as Susie, working in a pizzeria run by a very stereotypical, greasy old Italian man, and decorated inexplicably with movie posters consisting of all Roger Corman movies.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed that every single poster on the wall was an old Roger Corman movie. It's like, yeah, this man will not allow for any opportunity of self-promotion to go by without being used. So yeah, basically, you get the vibe that this is, Allison's new to the job. She's not having a great time. She drops a plate. The boss isn't really mad at her, more disappointed, which actually probably hurts more than just having him be mad at her. She has a rude customer who's just a very large man eating nonstop greasy items, played to hilarious effect when at the end he says, "Waitress, more butter."
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
They really leaned into that joke.
Yeah. It's like, hey, this guy's fat, but how fat is he? It's like,
please, more butter.
Yeah, like any human beings ever, like, yeah, give me another stick, please.
Like, what are you eating that you need all that butter? You're at a pizzeria. What are you putting butter on? Which was kind of strange.
Yeah, it's like, man, this dough doesn't have enough like fat content in it. So yeah, then we kind of cut to a storm. A storm starts raging outside. A very short-lived storm that seems to only exist for a few lightning strikes. Almost entirely located on the rooftop computer that controls the robots. So the lightning strikes happen. There's some kind of reaction in the control room. The technician is, freaking out, trying to like push knobs and levers. You just get the feeling this man knows what he's doing. We don't need to know what those knobs and levers do. But apparently none of them tell you that your robots just became murderers because that lightning turned the robots evil. Some of you may think, but I thought that lightning strikes turn robots good, because Short Circuit, Johnny Five gets struck by lightning and he goes from being a military murder robot to being a super chill robot who hangs out with Steve Guttenberg. Do you know what I'm talking about? You know this movie? Boy,
were they wrong.
Yeah. So I think that I was thinking a lot about this, probably more than I should have. So I think that these robots are supposed to be non-lethal, like, not necessarily friendly. They're still, security bots. But they're not like war robots like Johnny Five originally was. So I think that lightning just changes your nature as a robot. So if you are a security bot that's non-lethal, you become lethal. And if you're a war robot that's designed for murder, you become good friends with Steve Guttenberg.
Have you ever seen Short Circuit 2?
I'm sure I have. It's definitely not as memorable as Short Circuit 1, but hopefully it has less of a white actor playing an Indian character, which is what Fisher Stevens does, I think.
I'm pretty sure it's the same guy.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Not to derail us, I just saw, I'm like, I can't believe they made a second one. I didn't even know there was a second one. But
yeah, I mean, how do you improve on perfection?
Yeah, Chud, but that's how.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, Short Circuit, does it Chud? I don't know. Maybe we'll do it sometime, because I think it came out in 86. Wait, isn't that the same year? Yeah, I think it came out the same year this movie did. So two different movies with two different visions of what happens when lightning hits robots. Yeah, but then anyways, we cut down to we don't cut yet because the robots have to murder their first guy, which is the technician. Cut. Yeah. It's not, we didn't smash cut yet. Oh yeah, I guess I didn't really look up what a smash cut was, but yeah, it seems like we smash cut to this guy opening up his very big like folder of, I think it was like technical documents for these robots.
Like what to do if lightning strikes the roof.
Yeah, what to do if your robots might be evil because of lightning. And instead he pulls out a porn mag. It's like, sir, your life could be in danger. Look at these directions. But he doesn't. He opens up a centerfold and is gazing at that while a robot sneaks up and murders him. And one of many instances where the robots sneak despite being the loudest things on Earth. Like their treads are so loud. Every scene where we see them driving, but anytime they have to be off screen, they're in stealth mode somehow.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. And then like the other thing with that scene is they're Like even before the lightning was striking, he was constantly looking behind him, like setting it up, like oh.
Oh, what's that? Well, yeah, because like the robots, because at one point the robot looks around and its head is not quiet.
It's like,
and its little red eyeball light is up, like it's looking in at him, but he's too busy. So we'll just go to like our many characters to be introduced, only to be later murdered. We cut to 3 dudes that are working in a furniture store. We've got Ferdy, and you can remember him because it rhymes with nerdy, and he is the nerdy one of this group. There is a guy named Greg, who seems to be like the ringleader sort of dude, and he's the one trying to ease tensions between our nerd. And then we have the gum chewing Mike, who is the one who's kind of like the more stereotypical douchey guy.
Yeah,
who's like,
bro.
You know, it's like, yeah, I got the beer, dude. Don't worry about it. So there you go. There's those 3 archetypes. They're arguing about, you know, obviously Ferdy wants to do his work because he's a stickler for the rules. He's trying to find some fuchsia for some old lady. And I only remember that because I sometimes write down lines that stick out to me. And at one point, like, Greg yells at him. He's like, fuck the fuchsia. It's Friday. And I'm like, but it's a mall, man. They're open on the weekends. Like,
yeah, they will.
This isn't like
tomorrow.
a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday thing. Like, you have to, like, you might need to like see that lady tomorrow. What if you don't have her fuchsia?
Plus, it's his uncle's store, which they don't really get into until later. But yeah,
they just talk about how he has like a lot more responsibility than the other guys do because it's his uncle's store. But that's how Greg kind of eases him into the idea of having, because they're planning a party. I forgot to mention that they're planning a party in the furniture store, because why not party in a furniture store in a mall overnight? That makes sense, you know? But so they want to have this party, and Greg is like, don't worry, if your uncle knows we had a party, we'll all be in trouble. It's like, yeah, you're not all related to him. I'm sure he'll have way more of an issue with Ferdy, but he convinces Ferdy to do it. So kind of moves on. I think that at that point, Mike, sneaks off to meet his girlfriend, who is played by Susie Slater. That's Leslie. Her dad, I think, owns the store that she works in and is not approving of their relationship, probably because Mike's constantly chewing gum. And we've mentioned this, but he reminds you every time he's on screen how much gum he has and how much he wants to chew it.
You know, I always wondered, like, the direction was like he just like wasn't doing well, and Jim's like, all right, well, just pretend you're like chewing gum or something. Because I feel like no one has that much gum in their mouth ever.
Yeah, but more, please. I need more gum chewing action, because it does seem like, especially in scenes where he isn't talking, he's just constantly chewing very loudly next to people who are talking. I'm like, it's like, don't forget I'm on screen too, guys. Yeah, then from there we get to Allison and Susie in some kind of mall changing room. I've worked in a mall. I don't really remember there being like changing rooms for the employees there, but I think it might have just been an excuse for Jim Wynorski to have like naked women walking around in the back, because that was pretty much seemed to be the purpose of that entire scene. It's just a little scene to kind of tell us that Allison doesn't really want to do this party thing, but Susie's talking her into it and does manage to talk her into going. You kind of get the vibe that the idea is that Susie wants to set up Allison with somebody, and then Greg had kind of mentioned that Susie had a surprise for Ferdy, so setting up the inevitable, you know, meet cute between these two characters, the nerdier of their respective groups, I suppose.
Which is crazy. So like Ferdy's like the nerd in this movie, but like 2 years earlier, he was one of the bad guys from Cobra Kai. Like he was one of the buddies. And then, so if anyone's watching this and they recognize, like, where do I know this kid? Because at first I'm like, is this like Rick Moranis, like Jr.? Like, what is happening here? Like, it was like, he kind of has that Rick Moranis look, but I did some research. I looked into him. He played one of the Cobra Kai guys. And then whenever they did the new Cobra Kai series that's like popular now, when the one actor was dying of cancer, they brought him all back to do like a reunion. And he was there. So yeah, I thought it was weird because typically these 80s guys get typecasted pretty hard. So I thought it was kind of strange that he was like one of the bad guys in Cobra Kai. And then 2 years later, he's
in both Karate Kid and Karate Kid Part 2.
Cobra Kai, Karate Kid.
One of Johnny's little group of guys who were part of Cobra Kai, and bring him back.
Yeah, I don't want to have to do one of your corrections at the beginning of the show. So
yeah, let me help you with this now, so you don't have to do.
So I don't have to
do like an embarrassing correction later. Although I will say this though, I don't really think he was that nerdy. I think he just put big glasses on him. I think that's just the beauty of props. Like he really isn't that nerdy. Like in general, it's just they set him up to be that because he's also pretty capable at combating robots later, or as capable as any of the other people are. Where were we? I think we're smash cutting up to the monitoring room where the technician was murdered. Another technician comes in. The robots apparently cleaned up the corpse of the first technician so as to not alert the second one to their new evil nature. And it's basically a really similar scene, except this guy's actually reading a book and seems unaware of even the initial issue that happened because, again, no corpse. And the blood must have been cleaned up. So these robots are really sneaky when they have to be. Straight up murder that guy. You don't really need to talk about him too much.
Well, the phone call was super important.
Wasn't it just somebody looking for the first tech? Yeah. He's not here. Well, I wondered about that because later on there's another phone call because they have like a phone call jump scare. And it's like, how do people get like I understand having the phone call to like the room where the techs are, but the later one is to a payphone. Like someone just called like looking for messages.
A lot of calls at this
somebody.
Mall.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was how it was back when you had landlines.
Right. Hey kids. So when you would go to a mall,
we've done this. Oh, when you go to a mall, there's payphones. We've already kind of covered all of the iterations of phones at this point.
Yeah. Next insert pager. We'll explain that one when we get to the 90s era.
We'll track the progress of technology for those who are curious. Yeah. So we bring in now everyone to the party. Everyone's there at the party at the furniture store, which is like a terrible place to party because there's I guess I don't really have to get into why it's a bad place to party, but it's just got like a gate on it. It's like anyone could just see that they're partying in there who's like nearby. They're enjoying themselves. I think that the last couple, I forgot to mention it, that they are actually married. It is Rick and Linda.
Oh, yeah.
And they own like a garage. And they are kind of not super interested in going to this party either, other than that they're doing it for Susie, which is kind of why I said like Susie's the impetus for all of this happening. So yeah, there's, some good 80s pop music playing. So that's how you know that the party's about to bump off. Ferdy is being dragged out of the back room, talking about how he wants to do his bookkeeping. But he is introduced to Allison, and they are both obviously instantly smitten with each other, as we, the audience, probably could have predicted. You have some nice, like, soft piano cue that goes in on it. Like, I was surprised they didn't do like one of those like old, in like the old like 30s movies whenever they'd zoom in on like an actress and it looked all kind of smudged.
Yeah, right.
Like it was, I was surprised they didn't do that. It was basically one step away from it, really. Yeah. So this is when the robots, are start going online. They're announcing to one another that they're going online. Very confusing. I don't understand if they each have their own like wills, or like who they're announcing this to, but they're going online. This is where I put in my notes that they're the loudest things on earth. They actually drive by this party, but it isn't time for them to be interested in killing our our 4 couples, our 8 characters yet. So right now they just move on.
So like I thought about that, and I know so I think about these, try to rationalize this stuff. So like they didn't start really, well, we'll get there, but there's a reason they start trying to kill these kids. Kind of. So
almost. There's almost a reason. See, I think that what you're saying is they kind of justified it earlier when they're like they only patrol the common areas of the mall. They don't go into individual stores. Except they straight up do later.
After they're chasing them.
Yeah, but we can get into this because there's more to it. But at this point, all of the couples, other than the new couple, Allison and Ferdy, all the other couples are starting to bone down because who doesn't want to bone down in a furniture store near other people? Who
doesn't want to bone down in Ferdy's uncle's furniture store?
Yes. Each of them picking their preferred furniture types, I guess, with the exception of Ferdy and Allison, who are watching a black and white film that's actually a Roger Corman produced film called Attack of the Crab Monsters. And actually it looks pretty good. I kind of want to see this.
I've never seen it. The ending was kind of, the foreshadowing was pretty wild. Like the whole ending scene thing, it's like he gave his life, and then they're just like, I don't know. That was just kind of funny. Yeah, we'll have to watch it. We'll add that to the list.
The only reason I'm hesitant to add it to the list for this is because it came out in like 1956 or something. Like it's pretty old.
If we ever get back there, we'll add it to the list.
If we ever run out of movies in more recent decades, we'll definitely head that way. But then we, Allison makes her move. her and Ferdy are ostensibly going to be a couple. Then we move on to a very important character, Dick Miller, a very angry janitor, having a rough time of it. The other janitors are really mean to him. He actually is playing a character named Walter Paisley. And I don't know if you checked into any of Dick Miller's credits from before. He's a really well-known character actor. He's appeared in so many things, and often as a guy of some recognizable role. And I say it that way because it's like sometimes he's a cop, sometimes he's a security guard, sometimes he's a janitor like he is here, sometimes he's a garbage man. It's just like if there's something that he can be where he will stand out and you will remember him, Dick Miller is going to be your man. And I looked it up and they said his name was like Walter Paisley in this. I'm like, that's a weirdly specific name. But if you go down Dick Miller's credits, he has been named Walter Paisley in so many roles. Others, he's just Walter. So it's like this like multiverse of all of these movies that he's been in over all of these like decades.
Holy shit.
Yeah, like the Twilight Zone movie, he was Walter Paisley. And I tracked it all the way back to A Bucket of Blood, which was in the 50s. It was the first time he played Walter Paisley.
Oh my God.
So yeah, but probably to most listeners, he'd be best known as Murray Futterman from Gremlins and Gremlins 2, the new batch. Because in Gremlins 1, I think he's the only person who like understands the existence of gremlins, other than the guy who gives the mogwai to the dad in Gremlins. But like he's just like, as soon as stuff starts to go wrong, he's like, it's got to be gremlins, man. He like knows. And then he's like on vacation in New York in the second one. And when the bat gremlin escapes from the lab because it can go out in the daytime because of like the sunscreen injection they give it, he's the one who like operates the heavy machinery to cover it in concrete and turn it into a gremlin gargoyle. So yeah, important character from that. But he's been in so many things too, like Terminator, Small Soldiers, The Burbs, Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, Night of the Creeps. Like basically you could just like throw a dart at any movie that's been released over all of these decades and he might have been in it. Apparently all of Joe Dante's filmography. He's been in every single Joe Dante movie.
Wow.
Yeah. Like that's wild. So, and for audience, listeners who don't know Joe Dante, like Gremlins is, probably one of his more famous things, but he's also done like The Howling, Piranha, Inner Space. He's done a lot of stuff. He was one of the there's like a lot of directors that are kind of acolytes of Roger Corman, and kind of like you'll see them doing a lot of Corman produced work and kind of got them started in the industry. And Joe Dante was one of those. There's a ton more like him, but for the purposes of just talking about Dick Miller, that's what his like relationship with Joe Dante was kind of enduring in that way. But of course things don't work out too well for Dick Miller this time, because the robot shows up and just knocks his bucket over in an effort to like upset him further. That's the thing, is like these robots like have a weird sense of like drama and irony that I didn't expect. Like they don't just want to murder you. They want to like make sure that they like scare you or annoy you or give you cause to underestimate them. Like they're really dramatic. So one of the robots knocks over his mop water, and he's upset with it, and it asks to see his ID badge, and it scans it, but then it uses its fallen mop water to electrocute him to death. It was like, why'd you even bother looking for his ID if you're just going to kill him anyway? Like, I understand they're evil now, but
I thought he kicked the water over to soak him with water to shock him and kill him.
Well, that's what I mean. He did, but like he knocked the water over.
But the robot knew.
Yeah, but then the robot was like, I want to see your ID to like disarm him, I guess, to like kind of get him to the point where he's like, yo, this robot isn't going to do anything sinister other than be clumsy. No, it's going to electrocute him. So that was the end of Dick Miller. If you were just looking for the parts with Dick Miller in it, you could have probably turned off the movie here. But there's a lot of people left to die. So, and this is the first instance of the robot's catchphrase. All the collective robots have one catchphrase they say every time
have a nice day.
Yeah, every time they commit a murder, they always say, "Thank you, have a nice day," which is like pretty funny actually, because this is kind of ties into them having like some weird sense of humor about what they're doing. I'm like, it's like maybe these guys aren't so different from Johnny Five after all.
You're right.
Yeah, but then we go back to our people having their weird sex party in the furniture store. Leslie wants cigarettes, but specific cigarettes. What is it? Mike says that there's Camels, but Leslie says, well, I want Virgins or something like that. Like, I don't really know all the cigarette
it's like Virgin Lights or something. Or
yeah. And then she's like, well, there's a machine just down the hall. And it's like, well, that is a good way to date your movie, is have a cigarette vending machine there.
Yeah, right.
So like Mike, obviously, he's going to do whatever he wants to for his girlfriend. So he, puts on pants, no shirt, just pants.
Puts another wad of gum in.
Gets another handful of juicy fruit and then heads out. And this is the part where there's the jump scare where the phone rings while he's there.
Right.
And that was what I didn't expect a payphone jump scare. And then he answers it, and it's some guy named Jamal asking about his messages. And then after he hangs up the phone, he turns around and one of the robots is just there. And he's like, geez, you little bastards are quiet. But I'm like, they absolutely aren't, though. They are the loudest things. Why do they keep pretending that these things can be stealthy? Then the robot asks for his ID. The robot scans it. Again, I think this is just a tactic to like convince people they're not going to murder them by scanning their IDs. He says Klaatu Barada Nikto to it. Which
was awesome.
Just to show his like cinema literacy.
Such a good reference.
Yeah, just to show that he knows about the day the earth stood still and is not afraid to reference it. But anyways, it sleeping darts him when he turns around and then crushes his throat. I guess cuts it, right? It cuts his throat.
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of unclear of because there isn't a lot of visual chopping, so you don't know like what's actually happening. But yeah, I would say it's more of a laceration.
Well, that's kind of going back to like, because you recognize the hand as a reacher grabber toy, so it's like those don't cut. So I was like, oh, it must be crushing his throat. It's like, nah, later on the wound has definitely been sliced open. So from there, it goes back to Leslie now wondering where Mike
for this part.
Yeah, this is like where it gets.
This is like the coolest scene of the whole movie.
So so like Leslie goes out looking for Mike. It's like this is the part where I'm like, these robots, like if I was wondering if they're doing it to have like a sense of drama about what they're doing, now I know for sure because it turned off the lights in that hallway.
Yeah, and it propped him up.
So she had propped him up in sitting position beside the cigarette machine. So she walks over and then she is like, Mike, what are you doing? Like grabs him. His head like tilts back, showing the throat cut, blood and all that. She screams. Instantly, the fire doors in the hallway next to her bursts open in a way that's impossible for that robot to have opened. They just fly open simultaneously, and there he is, and he comes flying out, chasing her down. I just love that as like I was on one of the IMDb things on Goofs. It's like there was no way the robot could have opened those doors from how it's positioned. I'm like, exactly, I saw that exact thing. The internet gets it right sometimes. So she's on the run. It's shooting at her with its lasers. We were told they were lasers for cutting rubble in the event of an emergency, but these are pretty clearly straight up like sci-fi lasers that are being shot. She gets just to the area where everyone can see her being pursued by the robot, and then it fires a laser and just explodes her head. Just
everywhere.
Yeah.
Just like boom.
Yeah.
And this is like a famous scene from this movie. Like this is why like a lot of people, like practical effect people, like they set up a lot of stuff to blow the head up.
Yeah, it's like it's like chunks and blood and everything like that.
Yeah.
And it's like really funny to do it that way because hitherto our robots have been kind of like careful about how they're doing their murders. And this is as far from careful as you can get, to wait until she's in clear view of all of her friends and then blow up her head.
So like I knew there was a crazy death in this movie. I didn't think it was going to happen that soon. So like when that happened, I'm like, holy shit. Cause it comes out of nowhere.
That was the one. Like, the main one.
Yeah. They skim her arm and it, like, there's a little black mark. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, okay. It's like a weird laser. And then she just like stops and turns and looks at him and then she's like gone.
Well, that's like that weird artifice about it because like they need to set up the effect. so they can't be on the run while they do it. But yeah, the way she like turns and it's like she stopped running for a second and then just boom, like a flesh balloon exploding. The robot, of course, says, "Thank you, have a nice day," because he may be a murderer, but he's not going to be rude. And at this point, he starts breaking into the store to get at the others. And you said that this is happening because it saw them or knew she was going there and knows that it needs to get to them.
Here's like how I thought about it, right? So I don't think like there's two options, right? The robots are lightning cause them to be just completely murderous, like malicious, which there's a lot of evidence that shows that. But like
most of the movie
was,
seems to show.
Yeah. But then it like rolls past the janitor, our boy Walter, and oh, here's the badge. And then he kind of hits it with the mop, right? Antagonizes it, and then it kills him. Then, so when Bubblegum Joe goes to get the cigarettes, I can't remember his name.
Mike.
Tom? Mike. Yeah. Insert like white wasp name.
Yeah.
It's probably Biff or like Chad or something. Anyways, so like he goes to the cigarette machine, he turns around and like he's like intruding, right? So like it set the tone in that movie in the beginning that it's going to deal with intruders. So like the programming's faulty. So it thinks it's attacking intruders, but then it chases that guy all around the mall in the movie. So like its programming is to follow these people. So I think it thought they were intruders, but I mean honestly they were just murderous robots. But I was just kind of offering an alternative.
But yeah, because up until then they had not gone inside of stores. They're still obeying part of their programming,
right?
Unless at this point they just like saw her like running that way, and it's like, oh wait, I'm now a untethered robot. None of the laws of robotics apply to me anymore. I can do what I want. So like they're gonna kill. They're gonna
so break they were the heroes
stores
the whole time, right?
I mean, let's be honest. They're the kids. They say they're teenagers, but they aren't teenagers. They're like all in their like 30s or something. But like, yeah. So it's like all of these like people in the mall,
young adults.
They shouldn't have been having a party there. I don't know if it warrants being murdered by robots, but you know how it is.
Yep.
And at that point, the blast doors for the entire mall come down. So it's midnight. They're now trapped until dawn in the mall with robots. Now we have a movie. So they basically the guys help the remaining women up,
which was smart,
up into the heat vents.
Clever.
Yeah. Or into the vents.
The ductwork.
The ventilation work. So like they go up there. There wasn't enough time for them to go because the robot was breaking in. So they just go out another door, which if that was always an option, maybe they should have all gone together, but I get it. They wanted to let the ladies like be safe up in the vents while they immediately decide that they're going to start fighting back against these robots. So they're going to they all at once announce Peck and Paws, which is the name of a sporting goods store. Also the name of famous director Sam Peckinpah, which I'm sure is the reference. Yeah. So they go to the store. What was it? It was like, Rick quips, "Don't worry, I've got the keys," and just breaks the front of the store open. I'm like, man, you'll go breaking more stores open. You're going to make the robots even more upset. They gather weapons, and it was like the one dude had a shotgun, makes sense. The one dude had a propane tank, not super effective. It makes sense. He also had a 44 mag because he made a reference to how it was the same gun that Dirty Harry uses. In fact, it's not. The barrel size is actually different, but same, I guess, caliber of weapon.
Take that, Ferdy, you nerd.
Yeah, Ferdy, you're not even nerdy enough. But and then Rick inexplicably seems to have like an assault rifle.
Yeah, right.
What is like it has like a clip loaded like semi-automatic assault rifle. He just has that in like a sporting goods store. But yeah, like probably the best weapon, except that it doesn't appear that any of them actually are effective at all to these robots. Like bullets are bouncing off of them. Robot advances, but slow enough that they have enough time to get a lot of shots off. Ferdy, being a real goat, he throws the propane tank, which Rick detonates with his assault rifle. Seems to kill the robot. Will it stay dead? No. Just going to say it now. No, it's not dead, but they believe it is. And they think that they're down one and they only have 2 more robots left. Then, cut to the vents where Susie is having some kind of weird meltdown. It really seems like she's having a panic attack about being in the vents, which I can actually appreciate that. Like, I don't know how I would feel being in an enclosed space like that while there's murderous robots out there, but at the same time, probably better than the murderous robots. So yeah, Allison's trying to talk her into staying there. It's kind of implied that they're pumping, like the robots have started pumping hot air into the vents to try to
turn the heat on
to try to flush the women out. Yeah. Which is interesting because it was never hinted before that they had control over like the climate control for the entire mall. But at this point, there's basically nothing these robots can't or won't do. So like Allison's trying to talk Susie down. It's like, we work in a pizzeria. It's way hotter than that there. But, she is just convinced that Greg needs her help, her boyfriend being Greg. So the women opt to exit the ventilation unit at, it seems to be an automotive store, just based off the equipment they find, because it seems like they find just a ton of gasoline canisters there.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. There's like a nice little cut just for us, the audience, where it goes back to dead robot and it's resurrecting itself. And by that, I mean, it's just sitting up, because to us, it just looked like it was knocked over. I don't know why they believed it was dead. I mean, it was implied that it was leaking like hydraulic fluid, but we don't know how these robots work. Because one of the guys is like, it's robot blood.
Yeah.
Like, okay, man, sure it is. Where were we at? It was
So they're in the auto store with oil, and they're making like Molotov cocktails.
Oh, yeah. So this is one of the parts where one of the robots goes into stealth mode. It just pulls into like a nook somewhere and just turns its lights off. I'm like, these dudes are sneaky. They're learning how to do this. And at this point, the guys are off doing some kind of propane canister trap on one of the elevators. The goal being, I guess, to, lure a robot there to destroy it. But then here's the first of, well, not the first. There was plenty of scenes of the ladies screaming throughout. But this was like one that I had to like turn this down so my neighbors didn't think I was murdering somebody. So stealth robot emerges to chase after the ladies who are running down the hallway with their gasoline canisters. And
Smart.
Barbara Crampton, living up to the title of Scream Queen, screams so much, dude. And I was like, there's no way that she can keep this up. But then she falls, drops her gas canister too close to herself. Robot lasers it, and then boom, she's instantly ablaze. So
yeah, that was a crazy scene. I'm like, holy shit.
I didn't like these robots. Like, if there's any way to kill people that isn't chopping, they're gonna do it. So that robot like instantly recognized that she had like a can of gas next to her, and always sucks when someone gets murdered by a robot. But at least I was able to turn the movie up again because her screaming was. I was worried the cops were going to show up. Probably the most gruesome kill, actually, is that burning alive scene. Like, I get that the headshot scene is, like, crazy graphic for us, the audience. But, like, the getting burned alive by this robot, I was like, man, this robot really had it out for this one.
Yeah, but, like, didn't she, like, get up and, like, kind of go towards them? Like, it wasn't like she, like, fell on the ground and died and burned to death. It was, like, she had, like, a death scene and, like, an actual death scene.
Yeah, well, she like, fell down and then, like, inexplicably never really got back up until it was time for the robot to shoot the gas canister, and then she just kind of stood up and like burned up after that. Greg is upset because his girlfriend just got burned alive, so he starts shooting the robot with a shotgun. Again, just as effective as it was earlier, which is not at all. So basically at this point they are all kind of on the run, and what was it? I think Rick had stayed behind with the trap or something like that. Or he lured one of the robots to the elevator, crawled up through the shaft to the top of the elevator. And then he like jumps off the top once the robot gets into the elevator so that the others can shoot the propane tank trap and then, kill it. This being a scene where almost the entire group of gun wielding people, other than Rick, who's the person who's, lured the robot there, they almost botch it by missing every single shot. But Allison takes the gun from Ferdy and shows him how to shoot, fires and explodes it in one shot. So
cementing their love.
And also, that Ferdy's pretty useless. Like, you just have this man hold the propane tanks. Yeah, then we go off to I think they're all, is this at the point? I think they're hiding in the pizza shop where Allison and Susie were working. So they're down one robot. I think they still believe they're down two. They don't know what we know, which is that one of those robots has emerged. Yeah. Greg, I have in my notes, Greg fairly asks why the women left the air vent. It's like, yeah, it's a fair question, Greg. Like, they really shouldn't have. But like, in the nicest way possible, remaining, we still have 2 women remaining at this point. It's Linda and Allison, obviously.
Yep.
So they like gently but firmly explained to him that it's actually Susie who wanted to leave the vent, like leading to her own death. Like it's like, you guys should have stayed up there. It's like, that's true, my man, but she's the one who pretty much demanded it. So at that point, Greg has his little breakdown moment, but Ferdy's able to buoy his spirits by coming up with a plan to attack the master computer to shut down the robots. That gets Greg going, but the problem is it gets Greg going a bit too hard because as they're running through the mall to get to, I don't know, what is it, like somewhere in the roof is where the computer is, or is it on the 3rd floor?
Yeah, 3rd floor.
Yeah, it's on the 3rd floor. So they're on the run, and he runs up like he runs up one of the escalators, and no one has caught up to him yet. So Greg turns around, his rookie move of not checking his 6s, and he just like yells, "Where you guys at?" Tossed off a balcony by a robot.
Yeah, like it was one of the craziest death scenes too. Is unfair. I thought they were like, oh, he's gonna get punched through the chest or something, right?
Yep.
It's like, nah, it just picked him up and threw him off the edge.
Just toss him over you. So yeah, Greg's done. He was surprised. Again, another instance of the robots being stealthy when the plot calls for it. We get our thank you, have a nice day. Because again, these robots, they're not going to be jerks. Other than the murder, but So like, yeah, at that point, there's someone that has the line, I guess I'm just not used to being chased around a mall in the middle of the night by killer robots, which, I understand that. I had worked at a mall once in my life. Never once was I chased around by killer robots. And at this point, they have locked themselves into a department store and closed the big metal sheet yes. Yep. So at that point, they have enough time for one of the robots to, it needs to take its time to use its rubble laser finally for the way it was intended, sort of, which is to slowly carve its way through something, which is the metal sheet door. And at that point, the remaining survivors have the idea to use mannequins as decoys. I'm pretty sure it was Allison who had the idea, because other than Rick's plan to like bomb the elevator, every other good idea seems to be coming from Allison. So yeah, they set up like a series of mannequins as decoys, and robots, even though they have
they knew that there was 2 entrances, right? So they like set up an ambush.
Well, yeah, because they still, I don't think, know that one of I think they still think they only have one robot remaining, don't they? Has one? I don't remember. I can't remember when the other one surprises them. I don't know if I have it in my notes or not. Because at one point, I think by now they do know. Because one of them.
No, they do, because one was chasing them, and the one that revived itself killed Greg.
Oh, that's true. So yeah.
Yeah.
So the one has been chasing him, and then the other one was the one that surprised them. So they do know they have 2.
So the other stressful thing is these things can use the escalators.
Yeah, they just roll up them like nothing. I mean, they do have treads. I guess that's how it works. But yeah, I think at this point, we shouldn't be surprised that the robots are very resourceful, because they seem to be able to do anything they need to do. They also are incredibly tactical, using ruses to murder people most of the time. And yeah, now at this point, we learn that they can make, tactical decisions where one is going to go through the front door while the other one goes around back. So they're like velociraptors in that way. You're going to get attacked from behind. But unexpectedly, the mannequin plan actually really works well. So when they were shooting at the mannequins, they'd set up like mirrors behind them, and it reflects one of the robot's lasers back at itself. So it starts having like some kind of conniption where it's like going crazy, flailing its arms and spinning around and shooting lasers in all directions, which unfortunately Linda doesn't take cover in time. And, she gets hit and dies. Rick is not pleased that his wife was just killed, as you can expect. So he just like jumps onto like some kind of cart, some kind of like go-kart type thing to like finish off the robot. The robot, which is emitting visible electricity, touching it is ill-advised, but he does anyway. And then Rick dies kind of unceremoniously for Rick, because he seemed like he was a really capable dude up until that point. But it does blow up the robot. So we know that robot, just like the elevator one, is definitely dead. Mm-hmm. So now there were 2, just Allison and Ferdy. They split up at this point. I didn't really understand why they split up. I think that Ferdy was going to go look for the master computer, and I don't know what Allison was doing, unless they didn't know where the master computer was.
No, so they got to the third floor.
And they didn't know where it was. Yeah.
And they're like, we don't know what to do. And they're like, all right, you go this way, I go that way.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So, and there's just scenes of them like looking around through corridors. No one will be seated while they check long, empty corridors. There is one point where Allison's in some random room, and it's like the weirdest jump scare, I think, because one of the doors like kind of opens a little bit, like someone turned the handle and opened it. Mm-hmm. And she like gets something and like opens it and then swings like at it. And it was just a bunch of junk. Like it was like piled with junk to the point where as soon as she opened the door, the junk fell out. But I'm like, how did the door open? Like who opened it? Like just to get her set up for that like jump scare.
I was like really hoping that there was going to be some like down on his like gruff, like conspiracy theorist that's like hunting the robots that was going to help them. I feel like the homeless, like living in the back of the mall trying to protect everyone. But
maybe that weird couple from the beginning, the weird, like, snarky,
or something, right? Or it was like him. Like the whole time they knew, like,
they were ready. They were ready for these robots to invade their place. Yeah. But yeah, then instead though, the robot once again showing its sneak skills sneaks up
like right behind her.
Yeah, literally right behind her because they got the jump scare. It's like, did it set up the jump scare to get like, because like literally when she turns around. And then this is the part where, Kelly Maroney gets her chance to match Barbara Crampton's energy from earlier and scream so much so that I had to turn down my TV to avoid getting arrested.
To avoid capture.
Yeah, to avoid capture. So, so she screams, alerting, Ferdy to her plight. Ferdy shows up and actually, for once, has some skills. He shoots the laser emitter eyeball thing to stop the robot from laser beaming, which was pretty slick. Except at this point, the robot does a first, which is grab something and throw it at somebody, and it like grabs a canister and just tosses it at Ferdy, knocking him out, possibly dead. Like we're led to believe that he, is down for the count.
The blood.
Yeah,
well, because it went over and checked him.
Yeah, I did check him, and it didn't feel the urge to double tap. So you have to assume,
right?
Maybe it didn't have its laser beam, so it didn't know what to do.
Right. True.
Now it's like we're down to our final girl and the robot. She stands there for way too long, waiting for this robot to advance on her. Again, with all of the loudness that its little treads can manifest, this thing is charging. So she runs into a pet store, which.
Which terrified me, by the way. I was like, oh no.
Yeah. And this robot,
no.
This robot hates containers with animals in them because he just throws every container. But this is another question. It's like, is the robot smart or just lucky? Because it literally throws every snake or spider container that exists in that entire store. And, Allison is hiding under something on the ground. But the robot frees every single tarantula and snake in the place, and every single one of them instantly beeline for Allison to like crawl on her, and she has to like stay quiet with all these crawlies on her. I was like, are they like working with the robots? There's nothing that unites us other than our disdain of humanity.
Well, did you get so when I was watching this last scene, I got huge Terminator 1 vibes.
Oh yeah.
When she's like for sure. I'm like, man, this is shot like the same, like kind of anxiety, same pacing, fear. I obviously a robot chasing a female protagonist, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. Well, because at this point too, like the robot doesn't have like kind of the cheat skills that it had earlier to like locate her. So it's like really, really close to a Terminator kind of scenario where it's literally just her and the robot kind of like having this cat and mouse game. Speaking of cat, at that point, the robot has left the pet store, but then we get a cat jump scare.
Yeah. Which,
classic of all horror cinema, you got to get that cat jump scare. And that alerts the robot that she's still there because she screams. So the chase has started anew. And at this point, I don't know how this tactic she had worked, but she like was hanging off a railing on one of the upper floors and the robot is next to her, doesn't see her arms, and like goes past her, and she, learning from the terrible fate that Greg befell, realizes that she needs to fall on something that will break her fall. So she falls on like some tent that's set up down there, like some display for a tent to break her fall. And she doesn't die. And now...
It is like weirdly kind of crippled.
Well, yeah, at this point, she's hurt to the point where she can't run anymore. Now she's got to like find a way to lure the creature to her as like, you know, sort of a predator type thing. It's like time for her to set up some traps.
She's like, I'm going to sexy crawl to this paint store. Like, you know what I mean?
No, but she like crawls to the paint store, just starts dumping out various paints and thinners and primers. And I'm like, not all of these can be equally flammable, right? Like some of those paints are just paint.
Dude, back in the day, hold on though. Back in the day, solvent paint was like in. That was like the thing. So that was like that was one of the coolest things I thought about this movie, because they like the that cutter that they had, and that paint would have went up like that. Yep, 100%.
All right, well, I stand corrected.
I loved it. So we'll get into that later with the effects, but yeah, I was totally into that. It was cool.
Well, and this is kind of like, and then in my notes I have like robot barrels in like a fool. Because at this point the robot thinks he's got her dead to rights. So he just blasts in there. She pulls out her Chekhov's flare. Because earlier when they were in the auto store, she'd put a flare down her shirt in case she needed it.
Oh yeah, right.
So here it is. She needs that flare.
Chekhov's flare.
Yeah, exactly. So she tosses a flare, blows up the robot, throws his, thank you, have a nice day back at him, which is interesting because she probably only heard it said once, like when it killed Leslie in front of them, because most of the other deaths happen kind of away from her.
Yeah, true.
But she's not going to allow like any logic to get in the way of a good sign off line for this robot.
Yeah, good line.
Yeah. So she's like doing her like limp away from the scene. Ferdy's alive, just really injured. And he says something like what they said earlier, like nice shot or something like that. Just
yeah, right.
Yeah, it's like, did you even see it, Ferdy? If you did, what were you doing? Not helping her out. But either way, this is it. They together, limp off to the sunset, happy couple. Hopefully their relationship can survive, a time when they're not being pursued by murderous robots. But that's for tomorrow. But this is the part that I actually thought was also really funny. So I did one of those like kind of credits montages where it showed like the performer's name and then just like a still image of them. And did you see the one for Susie Slater? Was her headless, the scene of her head?
Yeah. That was hilarious.
It's like, yeah, the filmmakers also knew how important this scene was, that they used that as the still image for it. It's like, I can't imagine the actress was happy with that decision.
That was funny.
Yeah. So, and I was watching the credits because I'm just a weirdo. And in the special thanks at the end of at the end of the credits, one of them was special thanks gasoline. Like just the existence of gasoline. It's like, without it, we wouldn't have had a movie. So it was weird. And then we get like a nice little post-credit sting of one of the robots just coming out and saying, thank you, have a nice day. I don't know if it's implied that that's a fourth robot that we never saw before, if it was just one last chance for Jim Wynorski to show off his voice acting in the form of this robot.
I think both.
A little bit of both, yeah.
So one thing I thought that was cool, and I don't know if you picked up on this, and maybe, again, I'm probably overanalyzing this, so the movie they were watching, Ferdy and oh my god, what was that? I'm gonna kill my. What was Allison? Allison, thank you.
Yeah.
Ferdy and Allison were watching. It was the Crabman or Crabmen, right? Or what's it called?
Attack of the Crab Monsters.
Yeah. So in the scene, there's 3 people left, and the male kills himself to kill that crab man, right? So the 2 can escape, right? And they kind of like play. It's like they're all lovey-dovey on each other as it's panning out, right? But like Rick does the same thing. So there's 3 of them left, and Rick does the same like heroic, like drives the kind of mechanical thing into the monster and blows it up, right?
Oh yeah, he drives that cart into the robot.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't know if they planned that or were doing that on purpose, but that's what I said earlier. There's some foreshadowing because it's like, oh, it's pretty interesting that they chose the same. Like when there's 3 left, it's like what it kind of happened. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Like I'm probably gonna have to watch that crab Crabman video or whatever.
Attack of the Crab
I keep making it sound like a lot weirder than it probably is, or probably
you
not.
gotta watch
honestly,
that Crabman video.
You gotta watch those Crabman videos. Yeah, so definitely gonna give that a watch to see if there's any other plot points that kind of overlap. Because again, I haven't seen that movie, so I thought it was just kind of cool how they kind of slotted that in there, and they might not even have intended that, but I don't know if you picked up on that. I kind of did. I thought it was cool.
Oh no, I hadn't actually seen it, so that was new to me. That was how that movie had ended. I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised to know that.
Like when they were there, that's what the scene they were watching.
Oh, the ending scene of the movie.
When they were sitting there, yeah, that's the end of the movie. They were sitting there and they were watching that scene of when there was a couple, and then the guy like dies, and they're like, "Oh, he gave his life to save us" or something. So all right, well, never mind. I thought too much about it, as always.
Well, I mean, like
cool.
I said, that
It's
was
fine.
also a Corman movie, so I wouldn't be surprised if the comparison was meant to be there. Because this, like I said, this movie was written. Jim Wynorski and Steve Mitchell wrote it, and they wrote it relatively quickly. Like the original plot outline was done in 24 hours. Yeah, and it was shot quickly too. I guess it was like on location, shot over the course of 20 days, and then just 2 more days just like at the studio, and that was like it. That was the 22 days in and out, 15-minute adventure. So,
well, like with a short script and only 22 days of filming, like how do you think it'll hold up in our judgment categories?
Park Plaza Mall. You need a deal, we has them all at the Park Plaza Mall. This weekend only, Ellis Paint Company's having a clearance sale on all their gasoline-based paints. These deals are on fire! On top of all that, you'll be sure to feel safe with our new Securitronics Protector security robots. Now with an 86% guarantee that they won't go on a murderous rampage. You'll find all this and more this weekend at the Park Plaza Mall. Park Plaza Mall. If you need a deal, we has them all at the Park Plaza Mall. Shop till you drop, then you'll die.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Judgment categories.
Categories.
Categories. Make it spookier. Anyways, that wasn't even spooky. It was just weird. But yeah, for the audience, if you're new and haven't listened to the other episodes, the judgment categories are story, acting, effects, writing, and cult factor. That being the little X factor that makes these movies extra special. I guess with story, I'm going to have to say B. I love the idea of lightning making robots evil. I think we should come back to that as a society. But everything else about it was just like excuse after excuse for why people had to be in certain locations for certain things to happen.
All right, I'll give you the B because I'm gonna fight you on some other stuff, I think, but but no, probably not. But yeah, I think the story was tough for me at some points, but it wasn't like it was bad. I just was like, kind of like, wait, what? Like, why is this happening? But it wasn't bad. So yeah, I'll give you the B.
I appreciate that, and I'm sure that the robots appreciate it too.
Yeah, that's the only reason I'm really turning around, looking back every couple minutes to see if my robots
they will be quiet when they're not on
There's
screen.
no lightning here, so I think I'm okay.
For now. There will be eventually.
Yeah, probably Saturday.
But yeah, so and then the next is acting. You know what? Every character had their own thing. Like every actor kind of had their own idea of what their character would be. But you could tell that there's a lot of times where they're kind of picking one thing and just kind of rolling with it. So I'd probably say C at best on this.
Okay. Well, I think we're in agreement. I would do C as well.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta even though I did complain a lot about all of the screaming that happened, I think that Barbara Crampton's character in particular, once she kind of started losing it, you can understand why she would start to come unhinged a little bit like that. I think Kelly Maroney's character throughout makes reasonable and sound decisions, but then you have people like Mike who just chew gum the entire time.
Yeah, I thought some of the supporting actors in this, like the couple in the beginning, like the the cheesy like head of the company like salesman guy that was giving the presentation. I thought there were some things that just didn't hit for me. Like I didn't like, and I don't know how much of that is writing versus acting, because again, you get into weird things like were they directed this way? Was the idea to capture a feeling like that? But there were some things like even the guys running the desk at the computer, it was just a little too much for me at some point. So
yeah, the technicians,
Yeah.
like one just wanted to look at a porn mag, and then the other one
Right.
just wanted to eat it. He had like gotten a sandwich or something, and then was just like reading a novel.
right.
It's like there's really no reason for us to see two dudes die other than to imply that there was some redundancy
Right.
in like the entire plan with these technicians. But and I think another well, we can get into that when we get to
Yeah,
writing,
for
actually.
sure.
But yeah, I think acting wise, I would say C. Like
I
I
think
think
it's
that
fair.
people did their thing, but yeah,
There were some good ones. There were some bad ones. It was average.
sure. The next is effects.
Man,
Um,
go for it.
here's the thing: those robots. Reading about it afterwards, like they were all actually like practical parts. Like they put together those robots. They actually had 5 on hand in case anything happened to any of them, or if they had to do some kind of stunt or something that required them to damage one of
Yeah.
them. And you know, the head exploding was really cool. But then you got moments like the reacher grabber grabbing someone by the throat, and then you know, now it's sliced, like, you know what I mean? Or like any of the electric effects always look kind of weird because I always do that, like,
Oh, it's like an X-ray
post-
kind of thing.
yeah, it's like post-generated
Yeah,
effect,
yeah.
like where it isn't like actually practical. If there had been more practical effects, I think I like more kills that utilize practical effects, I'd probably be a little stronger on it. So I'd probably have to say B
Really?
or C maybe.
Or-
What were you gonna say?
I would say B or A. Her head exploded.
Yeah, but it was just one exploding head.
Yeah, I'll give you. I'm gonna fight for B. They built
Alright.
fucking robots that rolled around set. Like I don't know. Like, I actually like the effects in this. I thought they were cool. The lightning was a little cheesy. It took it down for me. But think of all the fire. They did the stuff with the paint. They did the stuff with the propane tanks blowing up. They did the elevator scene where they actually blew up an elevator. I don't know, man.
I didn't think about the pyrotechnics actually, and they did a lot of pyrotechnics.
Yeah.
And considering that when they filmed on location, like the security guards were really strict, so you know none of that was happening on location.
Yeah.
So all of that had to be done in the studio, but enough to look like it was on location. And I think you brought me around on it. I think I'm gonna go A.
Yeah, they like
Consider my head exploded.
the elevator trap. They did the cool effect with the mirror. They did the laser into the door, like the vault door thing.
The lasers were kind of goofy looking, but I think even when it was carving its way in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That did look good. It looked like it was like I think they probably did like some kind of
Yeah, it was like a
welding
TIG
thing.
welder or something.
So, like, Yeah. But then they made it look like it was coming out of its head.
So the only scene that I was like, this is bullshit, was when she like put her shirt up to her head and walked through the glass. Okay, I looked that up. You totally can do that, like legitimately. Like you can if you can time your knee, your foot, and your head to hit the glass at the same time, you can walk right through a glass panel.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that during my plot synopsis, just how many times Allison goes through glass in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, this lady hates the existence of panes of glass.
Yeah, so I thought it was bullshit. But if you hit the glass at a certain it's you should look it up. It's crazy. You can actually do that quickly. Like not even like you don't even have to like hit your head hard. You literally just walk into it and keep walking, and it just explodes. It's really weird.
Well, it is strongly strongly implied that she has a lot of like background in like survivalist stuff and like a lot of knowledge, because like she talked about her dad who's like a Marine or something, and she like could shoot really well. So the idea that she might have the skills necessary to do something like break through glass, not crazy, I guess.
But even like in my head, I'm like, okay, is this even like humanly possible? And it totally is. So yeah, I think it's an A, man. I love the effects. I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for that stuff.
Yeah. No, you brought me
All right,
back
good.
because I forgot about all the
All right, good.
pyrotechnics. I just
I was
wasn't
worried
thinking
about
about that. I was just thinking about the crappy lasers, but it's like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, not every laser has to be great. Next is writing.
I'll defer to this one to you, man. I don't know. I didn't hate it, but I wasn't completely sold on it.
It's one of those things like where I don't know if it's that the writing is bad or if the writing is writing characters who make stupid plans.
Right.
So like whenever they seem to change plans on a whim, they have terrible ideas. Like there's times where characters double back and stuff like that. But like every time something does happen, there is at least a character justification for why they're doing it. But at the same time, like think even about the ending where their plan seems to change from, getting to the master computer to just killing the robots. And you could say like, well, that was a plan of necessity because by that point, Ferdy's down, Allison's injured. She has to basically make this fight happen or it's over. I think I probably could give it a B. Because again, like a lot of the stupidity I think is written into the characters. Whether you buy that or not is one thing. But like these are characters who decided that the best thing they could do on a Friday night is have a party at a furniture store. So I don't think any of them are honor students. So yeah, I would say B. Maybe a little. Maybe Jim Wynorski looks down a little bit upon people, but it seems like we just need an excuse to have robots run around and do some murders, and have people have really dumb responses to it. But I think that there's enough plot coherence that it wasn't like anything happened without reason. So
yeah,
I would say
I'll
B.
go with you on that. I would have leaned towards C. And my only comment would be it felt rushed and like knowing the back. It's like in a vacuum, it's not bad, right? It's pretty good. But like knowing like what happened behind the scenes, how quickly it was put together, you can kind of feel that. Like you can see that. Like, but I mean, hindsight's 20/20, obviously. So like not knowing that it was rushed, I would lean more towards a B. But knowing that it was kind of rushed and they pushed it through. I'd go for an average, but I can live with the B.
No, let's give it a C then, because I think the next one we're going to give it a kinder thing for, because cult factor is always kinder. So I'm going to actually defer to you this time. So writing, well, I mean, I think I deferred to you last time for the higher one. So I'm just letting you pull me every which way. I'm very weak-willed today.
Very weak-willed.
So,
okay. That's
yeah. So yeah, we're going to go C on writing.
Yeah.
So jot that down.
So we were story was a B.
I believe so.
And then acting was a C.
C.
And then effects were an A.
Yes, sir.
And then writing was a C. All
yep.
Right, cool. Man, for all of the research I did, and I really want to give this an A in cult factor. I'm so pissed off that one, there isn't like humanoid robots because it shows the hands in there, which is awesome. And there's no chopping. I was kind of pissed, but man, this movie is pretty wild. I think you have to go with a cult classic, and with the lineage, like with the director. I think this is kind of exactly what this genre is designed for. You know what I mean? Like this kind of really fits. So I'd probably go A or B.
Yeah, for cult factor, you got a couple of scream queens in there living up to their names. Yep. You got Susie Slater in her second to last role, I think, before she vanished off the face of the earth. You got my man Dick Miller in here playing Walter Paisley once again, continuing his legacy of Walter Paisleys throughout the multiverse. Yeah, Jim Wynorski. Like, yeah, no, this was never meant to be like some kind of Oscar-winning feature.
Yeah, right.
They did it in 20 days. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna say A for cult factor.
I'm cool with that. It definitely had a mission and it accomplished that mission and it checked off a ton of boxes. Plus that lady's head exploded. Pretty fucking awesome. So
full on head exploded. Yeah. And it's so jarring. I hope everyone watched the movie because I feel terrible spoiling that because I was not ready for it
either.
The first time that I saw this. Granted, I saw this like I think 2 years ago is the first time that I got back around to watching it for the first time in recent memory. And like, I could not remember this happening. So it was perfect. But yeah, so yeah, we got the cult factor down. So the next up is the D-roll.
D-roll.
D-roll. It's in the game.
So yeah,
nice. So just to clarify, we're at a B on everything. When you average everything out, it's a B. So just letting you know.
I figured that's about where we were at. So audience, in case anyone doesn't know, the D roll is where we give it a final column to slot it into, which is either cult classic, B movie, grindhouse, or trash.
Fuck trash.
yeah, no, it's trash is number one. This isn't trash, and number one, yeah, trash is gross.
Yeah, all right.
So
Yeah.
I hope that I don't think that as long as I'm choosing them in our movies for us, that we will ever be doing something that is actually trash. But, you know, who knows? Maybe I'll be surprised by one that I thought was better than it was.
I hope like when we start asking for recommendations as a meme, people aren't like, oh, watch this one. And then we watch it. It's like, oh, great.
Yeah. It's like, well, we're canceling the entire show.
Yeah, right.
now.
Yep. Going to prison.
This is always one that's hard for me to kind of see clearly. You talked about how we averaged it out to about a B, which I could see meaning B movie. But again, like sometimes it's like, I think that the whole is more than the sum of its parts.
So I think what's hard for us right now is we're starting out with bangers, right? And we know that.
That's true.
And we know
true.
we're coming in hot by design, right? So we know that these movies are super popular. They're already kind of coined as cult classics. I think our perspective maybe might knock it down a rung or two, but in terms of overall, I don't want to say acceptance, but like overall, like how it's perceived in the community, I think this is a cult classic. I'd never seen it. I did know about it before we started doing this. I've had friends that have watched this and like it. So I have to go with cult classic. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's always hard for me to see clearly in movies like this because I just love them so much. Like, it doesn't even matter to me whether it's good or not. It's just like, it is great. But I think it's something like this. It really holds up well. It's such a aesthetic. It's such an artifact of its moment, and it leans into its sensibilities so well. And at the end of the day, I always think with the D-roll especially, it's like, I'm telling you, if you're looking at movies like on a streaming service, would I say, yeah, watch that? Like, yeah, watch that. You'll see a head explode, some murderous robots, almost no chopping. Like, it's great. So yeah, I have to say cult classic for this. Yeah, there's got to be a time, I guess. So I was thinking about it in terms of something like Chud. It's like, well, does it chud? No, chopping mall doesn't chud. It chopping malls.
It chops.
And that's important.
Well, no, actually it doesn't chop. So
it doesn't chop. It lasers. It mauls. It does maul. It does maul, but also somehow has a fundamental misunderstanding of how malls work, which is also incredible. So I had to say, yeah, I'm going to have to say cult classic as well. I can't not allow it.
So we have a pretty solid roadmap for what we want to do with the next couple movies. And I have a couple that I love that I think are, I don't know why, I just have always loved these movies. I might try to slot one in that I think might end up being a B movie for you. Because it's a couple that I wouldn't even classify as horror, but they classify it as horror. So I think maybe we could sneak one in the future just to get some variety in, because we are coming out with bangers. Look, these are awesome movies. Anywhere you look at them. So, and now if you don't like the genre, obviously you're probably not going to be as into this as we are. But if you're a fan of this genre, these movies are all going to be probably top of your list. And if you haven't seen some of these and you're kind of watching them, with us for the first time, that's awesome. Welcome to the, I don't want to say obsession, but welcome to the family, I guess. Cause like, it's what's cool about this community is a lot of people, you can find a lot of other people with similar interests. And it's kind of cool. Like the Comic-Cons, all the events they have. I know, through researching this, like, The Last Drive-In.
Oh, the Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs.
So The Last Drive-In. So like there are a lot of cool communities that really hone in on this genre and style of theater, which I think is missed today. Like there are a lot of really good horror movies today though, but not like this.
Yeah. Well, that's like the beauty of it is that it's such a moment. It's such a cultural moment that there's room for everyone to kind of get involved and talk about it and like express their opinions and stuff like that. There's a lot of people online that you'll see, there's a lot of discourse about this stuff. And I think that it's just like a really, really open group, like an open time in cinema, like where it was like the burgeoning video market and stuff like that. Like where there were like, there's a serious business component that you could think was really like kind of cynical and would be churning out terrible things. But there's like a lot of like, directors and writers and stuff working on like tight deadlines, limited budgets, but high concepts. And they were just like, let's just go for this. And they did. And that's what makes some of it so special.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
I do think that our next movie might be our worst one. Do you want me to announce what the next one is going to be?
Yeah, give it a go.
So I wanted to do one of the like a monster movie kind of thing, because we had a chud, now we had some robots, we had some stuff, but I want to do a more traditional kind of monster. So we're going to do The Howling 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf. It has another title. It is not as cool of a title, so I'm not going to say that one. But it is very much a pretty traditional style werewolf movie, hence The Howling. Granted, the first The Howling was actually a Joe Dante film, I think I mentioned earlier. It's great, and it did come out in 1981, but the problem is it's actually just good. And it's not really like, I wanted to go for one that was like going to lean more into the schlocky sensibilities in a way that maybe some of these other movies haven't quite done. So yeah, if you're ready for a movie that will be bad, probably it's going to be this one. And I say that to not spoil for our listeners, because I have seen it and I know for a fact that it's bad. So spoiler alert on that. But yeah, so it's on Tubi. I didn't really see it much of anywhere else. But yeah, so Tubi's free. Get on there. It is also, so this is another, I don't want to, we've been going kind of long, so I should probably wrap this up. Don't worry about it. But so the other Howling movies after the second one kind of are a lot of standalone ones. This is the only Howling that is a continuation of the last Howling.
Right.
So literally it's going to continue right after the end of The Howling 1, which we are not watching for this podcast. So if you want to see what happened, watch the first The Howling or just read about it on Wikipedia. Because I could have even gone with like The Howling 3, The Marsupials, like, which is the next one. I think it takes place in Australia, hence the marsupial werewolves. But I was like, no, I'm going to situate us right in possibly the worst time for a Howling movie. And that's what we're doing.
So just a heads up, if you like, I use TV Time as an app to help track movies and stuff. If you're looking for this and you can't find it by the name that we provided, Howling 2, just Google the different names, because it had a couple. So like on one of the things I was searching for, I couldn't find it, and I had to search it by the second name, and it popped right up. So don't fret. It's definitely on Tubi. So just, you might have to do a little bit of digging, not much, but just a tiny bit more if it doesn't come up right away.
Yep. Yeah, I picked the better of the two titles, in my opinion.
You definitely did. So yes. All right, cool. Well, hey, that's all I had. I don't know if there's any other closing thoughts you had, or anything else you wanted to bring up.
No. I think that we did a thorough job of covering this, like, 88-minute long movie.
Yeah.
Like, I think we've done we've scoured every nook and cranny for content that we could find.
All right, cool. Well, I've been Shane.
I've also been, wait. Oh no, I'm not Shane.
Oh no.
Let me check my notes.
Oh no.
Stefan, that's Stefan. Who I.
Yeah, and you've been listening to the Darkside Drive-In. Thank you, and have a nice day.
Stay spooky. I'm trying out different sign outs. How's that one?
You copied me.
Spooky. Oh, is that, you said say spooky?
I don't know. I don't remember what I said, but it works.
Maximum spookery.
Right.
How's that? Better?
Perfect.
Got it in 1 or 2.
All right. Thanks.
See ya.
We also had a special thanks this week. The jingle that was used for the transitions in this was written and recorded by Rebel Revolver. They're a local rock band in Pittsburgh, PA. They're also close friends of the show. You should give them a look. They're on Facebook. You can find them also on Instagram at Rebel Revolver Music. They just played the Millville Music Festival, so they're pretty up and coming around here, and I think you guys should give them a look. Normally we'd play our outro here, but I am actually going to play the full version of the jingle that I didn't kind of chop up and mess around with. So hope you enjoy. Thanks.
Park Plaza Mall. You need a deal, we have them all at the Park Plaza Mall. Come on down to the Park Plaza Mall. your hometown shopping destination. We've got so many stores your head will explode. Our Labor Day weekend sales are so shocking, you'll simply pass out and die. Be sure to stop at Furniture King, the tri-state area's #1 destination for illicit teen activities. And don't forget Roger's Little Shop of Pets, now selling exclusively tarantulas and snakes, both real and obviously plastic. This weekend only, Ellis Paint Company's having a clearance sale on all their gasoline-based paints. These deals are on fire! On top of all that, you'll be sure to feel safe with our new Securitronics Protector security robots. Now with an 86% guarantee that they won't go on a murderous rampage. You'll find all this and more this weekend at the Park Plaza Mall. Park Plaza Mall. If you need a deal, we has them all at the Park Plaza Mall. Shop till you drop, then you'll die.
Thank you. Have a nice day.